In the summer of 2008, after 2 years of debate, the campus of Oklahoma State University in Stillwater became the largest non-smoking area in the state.
It didn't start at the Capitol. It started on this campus with our students. And our Student Government Association in October of 2006 passed a resolution, a recommendation, that the campus become tobacco-free.
The new tobacco-free policy may be a pain in the neck for smokers, but it's a shot in the arm for those trying to quit.
I can no longer contemplate the possibility of having a quick smoke. So if I do have a strong trigger stressor, then I immediately can battle that mentally and say, guess what? You can't smoke here.
Precisely the impact for which anti-smoking activists were hoping.
You know, there's two ways that people could take it, I suppose. One is that nobody's going to tell me what to do, which we're not trying to. Or the other one is, you know, gosh, it's getting harder and harder. You know, I used to be able to smoke in my office, well, I can't do that. Or use tobacco. I used to be able to smoke in restaurants, I can't do that.
It is the latest in an ongoing series of restrictions on tobacco use. When Oklahoma's Clean Air Act of 2003 became law, some business owners had to turn away some customers.
My customers literally just got up and walked across the street because bars were exempted. So they would come in, have a drink, say hi, and apologize and say they were going across the street and wish they didn't have to.
Others have installed expensive air handling systems for their smoking areas. And yet some lawmakers are now considering new regulation of public smoking. On this edition of Stateline, the business impact of the turning tide against tobacco, our profit and traffic going up in smoke.
There was a time when it seemed like everyone smoked, and they did it everywhere. Smoking was cool. Our heroes surrendered to the siren song of the cigarette. Television brought the glamour and mystique of smoking into our homes. Even the Flintstones enjoyed rich tobacco flavor. Doctors smoked in hospitals, teachers smoked in class, and passengers on every flight waited for the pilot to give the okay. With the Surgeon General's report in 1964, smoking started to become a forbidden pleasure. But it wasn't until the 1990s that the smoker's world began to shrink.
It was everywhere. It was pervasive, and I particularly remember it at the Capitol building. Because back in the early 70s, I was a reporter.
Here's Ray Vaughn.
Good evening, everyone. David Hall, the always
I covered the state capitol. So we would go out there, cover committee meetings, cover floor sessions.
The new governor had an almost sleepless night because he kept reviewing.
There was smoking on the floor of the House of Representatives when I was a reporter out there. That was common. But the committee rooms are the ones that I recall as being such a horrible place to be, because the committee meeting would start and many, if not all of the legislators would light up, their cigarettes, and we met in relatively small rooms, jam-packed with people, many of whom were smoking themselves. And I would sit there and just breathe that secondhand smoke, and I would go home every night, of course, smelling to high heaven, and my eyes, just red, from the smoke.
Vaughn was elected to the State House in 1988. Right away, he set out to clear the air, starting at the Capitol.
I think we spent around $50,000 one year just cleaning the paintings. Our Capitol building has incredible artwork. That artwork was becoming smoke-covered, dingy. That kind of got some people's attention, and so we began to work to start with clean up the Capitol building.
When you smoke, you inhale over 4,000 chemicals. It's a toxic, poisonous mix of substances, including ammonia, the bleach in toilet cleaner, acetone, the chemical in nail polish remover.
By the late 80s, public opinion began to change. Vaughn and Ben Robinson, his ally in the Senate, saw an opportunity.
Next year, it was the idea that, people have to go to not only the Capitol building, but they have to go to public buildings, governmental buildings. They have to go to the courthouse. They have to go to, City Hall to conduct business. So when they go to those places to conduct business, which we require them to do, they shouldn't be subjected to this there either.
A 1975 law prohibited smoking on buses, in theaters, museums, and on elevators. But it wasn't until 2002 that smoking was banned in all state buildings. City and county buildings went smoke-free in 2003, and in 2004, lawmakers passed a bill that raised the excise tax on cigarettes, banned cigarette vending machines, and set stricter penalties for selling tobacco to minors.
Several of us came with bills to basically take smoking out of public places entirely. And I knew we were on the right track when both the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House had a bill to do the same thing. So when you've got the leadership going your direction, you're usually in good company.
The Oklahoma Clean Air Act passed in May of 2002.
It went into effect in the fall of 2003 for all workplaces except for restaurants, or, all the ones that currently covers. And then it gave restaurants until March of 2006 to go smoke-free or to build the smoking rooms.
In order to get the bill passed, lawmakers exempted bingo halls, casinos, VFW, and American Legion halls.
Bowling alleys initially wanted to be exempt. They saw smoking as, I guess, a part of the bowling culture. I think they were very fearful that it was going to cost them a lot of revenue. What they, in fact, saw, based on the bowling operators I've talked to, was a resurgence of customers coming from church leagues, children's leagues, families coming back in to bowl that would never have darkened the doors of a bowling alley because of the smoke environment.
It was in a smoke-filled room that Cattleman's Cafe was put up as the pot in a dice game. With the roll of a hard six, Gene Wade was in the restaurant business. For nearly 100 years, customers in Stockyard City have enjoyed a cigarette along with their steak.
It went into people requesting more non-smoking seats than smoking in the early or late 80s. But really the change got very severe in the early 90s when it switched pretty fast and went, suddenly we had 80% of the people wanting non-smoking.
Let America be America. Let it be the dream it used to be.
Here in Oklahoma, we have a 60% rule. If you're selling only 40% or less food, you can be all smoking.
I have this full order ready for you.
So when the law passed this last time, where they said you could have smoking rooms, the legislature really did a good job at that time of stating that the business owner and their customers got to choose an area, and instead of just trying to force somebody's personal beliefs on it, they gave the restaurants the right to build a smoking area, as long as they had separate ventilation, separate exhaust system. You couldn't exhaust the smoke out near a door. So to build a room, it became very expensive.
Equality is in the air we breathe.
Stubbs spent $30,000 on the smoking room at Cattleman's, and he knows some owners who spent more than $130,000.
A few restaurants, and I think there's approximately 130 in the state of Oklahoma, spent the money to put in smoking rooms. We were one of them. The smoking room opened up a year and a half ago in March, and since that's happened, all of our people that request smoking go into a separate area. That area has glassed off walls. It has separate, actually 3 different ways we get rid of the smoke. One of them's giant exhaust that literally takes the smoke and pumps it 2 stories high and out away from anybody, and also away from any intake on air conditioning. We have our air conditioning system we had to change 100%, put in separate air conditioning that only did that room and sucked only from that room. And then we also put in an electronic filter that pulls any particles in the air into that.
Groups like the American Heart Association did not support the smoking room's compromise. They pushed for a total ban.
We know now that ventilation doesn't work. Current technology available to ventilation engineers is such that while it does a good job of filtering out some of the odor and the visual effects of smoke, it cannot filter out the fine particulate matter that really does a lot of the damage in secondhand smoke.
Stubbs disagrees. He says they've had no complaints since the room went in.
It's kept down the smell, it's kept it clean, and it's worked very, very well for us. One of the advantages we got was the fact that by putting all the smokers in one area, we were able to actually pick up more non-smoking seats also. So our business actually went up pretty drastically because we didn't have to say no to any customer. We were able to please everybody. Everybody's been happy since the law passed, and including me, because I really don't want to tell 25% of the people in Oklahoma that they can't come here and enjoy dinner with their cigarette.
Chad Bleakley had to have that conversation with his customers. VCD's in Oklahoma City was built as a drugstore. The floor plan works for a bar and grill, but there's no place for a separate smoking room.
My typical customer beforehand was, probably a little overweight, a lot of fun to be around, had a couple of drinks, smoked some cigarettes, ate a hamburger with, bacon, onions, cheese. They added it on. The people that typically come in and thank me for being non-smoking, after thanking me profusely for a period of time and saying how miserable it was before, when I finally ask them what they would like to have, say, I'd like a half spinach salad and a water. So in the 2.5 years since it passed, I took a very large dip at first. I've just pretty much taken the financial hit myself. I'm sure a lot of the front-end employees initially lost some in tips. Drinkers tip a whole lot better than a lot of people that don't typically drink with a meal.
Initially, restaurants that went non-smoking reported a 20 to 25% drop in sales. Today, a sign calls out to smokers to cross Western and light up.
My customers literally just got up and walked across the street because bars were exempted. So they would come in, have a drink, say hi, and apologize and say they were going across the street and wish they didn't have to. If I had not been able to put money into this to keep it afloat, no, I wouldn't have made it. It would have put me out of business in 6 months.
Even some of the smoking customers say they like the change.
The females, they're better dressed, they like to take care of themselves, that still smoke though. They tell me how much they like coming here because they can go outside and smoke and they can still smoke, but they don't smell like smoke because there's none in here. So that, they're saving on dry cleaning. So, I'm really taking a long-term gamble that in the end this legislation was the right thing to do. I wholeheartedly believe it was executed poorly written, left people like myself out in the cold. With that in mind, I've taken a long-term approach, knowing that eventually smoking is going to be banned everywhere.
2 cigarettes in an ashtray, my love and I in a small cafe.
Prior to smoking, I was 60% food and 40% alcohol. Since then, I'm now 75% food, possibly more, 25% alcohol. It's a lot harder making money off of food. So it has changed my business model considerably, and long story short, I haven't made money since smoking. I've been able to keep my business open, and my sales have increased, and I'm really busy. I'm just not making any money.
In the early 90s, and the few non-smokers, they were the ones that were really very oral about their complaints. They were almost militant. Today, the militant person is the smoker, who has had their rights taken away. And even though our smoking room is very comfortable and everything, some of our smoking customers feel like they're being discriminated against.
Smokers, for a long time, talked about smokers' rights, you know, and well, I have a right to light up. You know, this is a public place, you know, and you had to change that total mindset that, no, wait a minute, this is my air too. I have a right to be here. This is my public building, and you know, I don't want to be subjected to the secondhand smoke.
And watch 1 cigarette burn
The secondhand smoke issue is just really huge for public health. When the Surgeon General's report came out in 2006, it was really kind of a wake-up call to not just those of us in the public health community, but really to everyone. Even just shorthand exposure to secondhand smoke can be dangerous.
The people that work in those bars, you know, are breathing all that smoke. We saw workers' comp claims filed, you know, as long ago as early 2000s. From people that have to work in smoke-filled environments, you know, and are chronically ill as a result.
The thing that's so frustrating about our current law that we have is it's really created a class of second-class citizens. You know, we tell restaurant and bar workers that, you know, you're not worthy of the protections that everybody else gets. One of the most frustrating things we hear is, oh, well, they choose to be there. You know, you don't have to choose to work in this restaurant or this bar or whatever. Well, you know, that's an easy argument to make if you're wealthy enough to afford that you could just quit your job and walk away.
Probably 50% of our entire staff smokes. Anybody that does not like to work in a smoking room, they don't have to. We work them in a different area of the building.
It is a problem. We've got lots of data now that say secondhand smoke is a problem, so we need to get rid of it.
Last year, State Senator David Myers filed a bill to end smoking in all public places.
I'm convinced that secondhand smoke causes us health problems. And if you look at the state of Oklahoma, we have a health problem.
Well, if that were the case, then we should ban smoking altogether.
When Myers' bill came up in committee, State Senator Randy Brogdon offered an amendment to ban the sale, distribution, or transportation of all tobacco. Other members of the committee did not embrace the idea.
When government is able to come into your private property and dictate to you what you can and cannot do, that is a property rights violation.
Myers didn't get the votes he needed, and the bill died on the Senate floor.
I did meet quite a bit of opposition from 1 or 2 restaurant owners who I don't think understood the bill completely.
That particular bill basically would have penalized the people that tried to follow the law. You know, that whenever you tell somebody they can do something if they spend a lot of money doing it, and then less than 2 years from the point of them spending that money, you're saying, okay, we're going to take it away from you now.
No telling how many millions of dollars were spent on their private property to upgrade to a new government regulation, and now here government goes again, meddling once again and putting even tighter restrictions and ignoring the investment that has already been made.
This bill is going to happen, whether it's next year or 5 years from now or whatever. You know, this really is the nationwide trend.
24 states have adopted laws stronger than what Oklahoma has, and several major cities have gone smoke-free, even if their state hasn't.
Oklahoma, 5 years ago was really a leader on this issue, and sadly we've kind of fallen behind. But I really think that this is the year that we can kind of pick back up and really finish the job.
If it comes back, I'll do everything I can do to block it.
We're anticipating that we're going to run that bill again this year. I'm not sure exactly what form it's going to be in at this point in time. Also, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to demand that a restaurant owner who's put quite a bit of dollars into this to just throw it away. So it'll be in some form. It may not look exactly like it did last time I brought it forth. For instance, it doesn't seem fair to a cigar bar who is selling cigars and they know the person who's coming in to buy it is going to sit down and smoke it, not to allow them to smoke in the cigarette bar itself. I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Very few cigar shops you can go in that you can't smoke. Almost everybody has some type of smoking room. What has not happened in Tulsa, in our area, is a smoking room that's also a bar.
The cigar box in Jinx is one business that would lose money if the law changes.
Well, obviously it would have been a big decrease in business. He would not have to close the bar. I just couldn't allow smoking in the bar. Our business is not affected at this moment because of that law, because we do not serve food. Okay, we are strictly a cigar bar. You can come in and pick out a cigar and go to the back and have a cigar, with your drinks.
We've got anything from the Delicious that runs $3.50 all the way up to the 1964 and 26 series.
We opened our business based off current laws, and the current law says that we can allow smoking in our back room and on our patio. When you walk into a smoking establishment, you know you've made that choice. You've made the choice to walk in someplace that you know that there's going to be smoke.
Faust and her partners, like many bar owners, invested thousands of dollars for special ventilation along with separate heating and air systems.
In the vast majority of these cases, these businesses will have long since recouped their costs.
What's recouping your money, though? Recouping your money is not making money. I mean, last I heard that we were here to make money. And I don't think, I think if anyone knew that there was going to be a law that possibly could just shut down smoking anywhere, I don't believe they would have spent the money so that they could recoup it.
Employees from nearby restaurants that have gone smoke-free now take their breaks here.
Even if you're off work and you're clocked out, and say you're on the back dock and you're in uniform, the health department comes in, that's fine.
Cigarettes and drinking together, it's a given. It's a given. It is a given. I know people who don't smoke who smoke and they drink.
They want to be together. They want to enjoy themselves, not just as an individual smoking, but and not necessarily just a party atmosphere, but it's the intermingling and the guys that want to play dominoes and the people that just want a place to sit and talk. Yes, people will drink. Yes, people will buy cigars, but people want to do that together. It's an entertainment. That's their form of entertainment.
When the legislature is in session, restaurant and bar owners will be watching the Capitol very carefully.
They need to look at the business part of it, not just the individual part of it. And, write it in where the law can be for both people. There has to be a happy medium. And there has to be a way that it can be written that, once you walk through those doors, you've made that choice.
The issue is sure to come up again, and lawmakers will have to ask themselves, how far will we go?
We're almost there legislatively. There's not a lot of area that people are going to be willing to go. For example, I don't think you would see legislation pass that prohibited smoking in your private residence, or your private automobile.
Would you rather go into a bar that's smoke-filled, or if you're a non-smoker, or would you rather go in one that's non-smoking?
We pay an huge amount of taxes that, we just feel like our rights need to be protected also.
We know that it'll be under attack every year. Hopefully our legislatures will certainly keep seeing, like they did last year, the fact that that's really not fair to take away something, and plus the fact that the people that have put in the smoking rooms, it's worked so well. We do not get any complaints from non-smokers.
A study released by the State Health Department compares restaurant sales tax collections in Oklahoma and Kansas for the 2 years preceding and following March 1st, 2006, the date smoking was prohibited in Oklahoma restaurants without separate ventilation systems. Sales tax revenues actually went up in the year after the law changed. But adjusted for other economic factors, tax revenues dipped slightly for that same period and recovered the following year. But sales tax collections do not reflect the capital expenditures of restaurants which have installed specialized ventilation systems. And if the law changes again, that money may have gone up in smoke. For a VHS or DVD copy of this program, please call 800-879-6382 or send a check or money order for $22.95 to the OETA Foundation, Post Office Box 14190, Oklahoma City 73113.